Losers of the day, the biggest gainer of the day was NNFM, which rose by 10%. Other gainers were the likes of Dangote Sugar, TIP, John Health, and Umatech. And while we're still looking at those activities, let's take a look at those who, were down, talking about the losers. Livestock topped the losers list with a decline of 10%. Other losers were the likes of Unicell, Nemeth, Regal Insurance, and Honeyflower. We'll take a break, and when we return, we'll be looking at activities from other selected exchanges. I'm talking about the likes of the New York Stock Exchange, the London Stock Exchange, the Chinese Stock Exchange, which definitely comprises the Shenzhen and Shanghai exchanges. The Afia Business Morning and Indeed Opening Bell will be right back after this time out. Stay tuned. Yo, welcome back to the Afia Business Morning, and you are watching Opening Bell. It's time to check in on activities from other selected exchanges, and we're going to New York right now, the stock exchange there. And interestingly, as far as our chart is concerned, it's mostly dips in index values across board. We have, except for the NYC Composite DJ, the NYC US 100 Index, and the NASDAQ, NYC FANG TM Index. Those are the stocks that are up at 0.42%, 0.12%, and 0.13% respectively. However, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down at 0.16%. The S&P 500 Index is down at 0.05%, and the NASDAQ Composite and NASDAQ 100 also down, both down at 0.19% and 0.09% respectively. Now moving on to the London Stock Exchange this morning. London Stock Exchange, all rises in index values across board. The FTSE 100 is up at 0.77%, FTSE 250 is up 0.25%, FTSE 350 is up 0.63%, the FTSE All-Share Index is also up at 0.61%. And now we move over to China, stopping first at the exchange at Shenzhen, and it's all rises as well. The Shenzhen Component Index is up at 0.41%. The SZSE Composite Index is up 0.44%. The Chinex Index is up at 0.66%. And now the question is, will that be the same order of events when we go to Shanghai? Well, no, it is not, because according to the chart, it's an even distribution of rises and dips in index values across board. SSE Composite Index is up at 0.28%. The SSE 380 Index and the CSI 300 Index are both up at 0.50% and 0.11%. However, the SSE 50 Index, Star 50 Index, and SSE 180 Index are all down at 0.28%, 0.42%, and 0.50% respectively. We'll take another break, and when we return, we'll be looking at commodity prices as well as a consumer price watch in the open market. You may want to follow this program and join in on the conversation on our dedicated Afia Business YouTube channel. Kindly tap in the search bar www.youtube.com/Afia Business, and while you're there, do well to hit the like button. Remember, you should subscribe so you get notifications on all business-related content coming to you from Afia TV. The Afia Business Morning and indeed Opening Bell will be right back after this time out. Stay tuned. My name is Ubon Kings.
I am Marvelous Afamaga.
I am Chioma Akbala.
My name is Ifunaya Ndule, but I'm living in a market speaking.
Yo, welcome back, and I am Ubon Kings. It's still the Afia Business Morning, and you are watching Opening Bell on Afia TV. It's time to check in on commodity prices, and we'll start with precious metals. Incidentally, it's upward movement for gold today and almost all precious metals this morning, except, of course, for palladium, which is down 0.93%. So back to gold. Gold is up at 0.10%. Silver is up at 1.40%. Platinum is up at 0.47%. And now let's take a look at energy this morning. Energy is a mixture of rises and dips in index values across board. Incidentally, we have more rises than dips, and natural gas is down at 0.93%. Oil Brent, oil Bonny Light are both down with 1.23% and 2.84% respectively. However, ethanol is up, coal is up at 0.73% and 1.55% respectively. Brass River and Kwaibo both up with the same value of 2.16%. Industrial metals is our next point of call, and interestingly, just two commodities are down. That's zinc and tin, both down at very close margins of 1.37% and 1.36% respectively. However, aluminium is up at 0.96%, lead is up at 0.35%, iron ore is up at 0.64%, copper is up at 0.61%, nickel is also up at 1.12%. You are watching the Afia Business Morning on Afia TV. This indeed is the opening bell. You may want to follow the program, join in on the conversation on our Afia Business YouTube channel. Kindly type in the search bar www.youtube.com/Afia Business. While you're there, do well to hit the like button. Remember, you should subscribe so you get notifications on all business-related content coming to you from Afia TV. Up next will be us taking a look at the hikes in prices of food commodities in the open market, as well as the hikes in fuel prices. And on that note, I will see you on Monday on the opening bell when the exchanges reopen for trading. The Afia Business Morning will be right back with Global Business. My name is Ubong Kings. Stay tuned. thank you for rejoining me on the Afia Business Morning. Welcome to Global Business, and here we'll take a look at business news stories around the continent of Africa and indeed the rest of the world. My name is Ubong Kings. Here are the headlines that we are tracking at the moment. Starting off with business news stories from the continent of Africa, where it's reported that Rwanda is set to become Africa's newest oil producer. And moving on, out of Africa now, Spain to tax non-EU buyers on property bought. And from the Asian continent, Vietnam to remove barriers for China-made aircraft. We'll bring you details of these stories and more after this time out. Stay tuned. You're watching Global Business on the Afia Business Morning, and we will begin with business news stories from Africa, where it's reported that the Rwandan government has officially announced its first oil discovery, identifying 13 reservoirs within Lake Kivu, a natural border with the Democratic Republic of Congo, as this oil discovery marks a significant milestone in the country's efforts to diversify its economy beyond traditional sectors like agriculture and tourism. Currently, Rwanda's economy heavily relies on agricultural and mineral exports, plus its thriving tourism industry. However, the discovery of oil aligns with the government's strategy to expand revenue sources through the exploitation of hydrocarbons and mining resources. Meanwhile, according to the statistical agency, Rwanda's extractive industries currently contribute about 2% to the nation's GDP, and this newfound oil discovery could further bolster Rwanda's growing presence in the global extractive industry and significantly enhance its economic prospects. Now, quickly, let's take out some time to look at a few things that are worthy of being emphasized. Number one is the fact that the Rwandan government has officially announced its first oil discovery. Hold on to that thought. Number two, Rwanda's economy actually heavily relies on agriculture on one hand and mineral exports on the other hand, and the third arm would be its thriving tourism industry. Three things that already is working for it at the moment. Then number 3 point I want to make is the fact that this newfound oil discovery, according to reports, could further bolster Rwanda's growing presence in the global extractive industry and significantly enhance its economic prospects. Now, let me try to put all of this together real quick. Now, this story shows something, the deliberateness of the leadership of the Rwandan government to intentionally diversify her economy. Recall that I did say that the country heavily relies on agriculture, majorly, mineral exports, and of course a thriving tourism industry, meaning that this oil discovery, as it were, and exploration, by the way, is only another option. It's not the mainstay of the economy, as it were. Now, just so you know, also, Rwanda happens to be the sixth most popular, or rather, was the sixth most popular tourist destination in 2024. Now, this is according to Business Insider Africa, which was published in the month of June. Now, you get the point. So it is just more like diversifying, not necessarily dwelling upon. And that brings us to the question, whatever happened to our own sectors that used to be the mainstay before we found oil? Well, food for thought, I guess. Moving on to other business news stories making the rounds this morning, and this time from Southeast Asia. It's reported that the Vietnam government, has said it will consider removing regulatory hurdles to allow aircraft manufactured by Chinese state-owned plane maker Comac to operate in the country, as Comac is seeking to establish itself as an alternative to leading Western plane makers Airbus and Boeing. Now, however, its two-passenger plane modules currently operate almost exclusively within mainland China, and the company seeks to expand its presence in international markets, where before an airline can operate any aircraft module, it must receive approval from the National Aviation Regulator. Meanwhile, Deputy Prime Minister Tran Hong-ha said as an initial step towards low-cost carrier VietJet, who happens to be Vietnam's leading private airline, may work with a Chinese airline operating Comac planes to test aircraft on some routes. Now, beautiful story if you ask me, but there's a case in point. My case in point, as far as the story is concerned and worthy of emphasis, is the fact that the Vietnam government has said it will consider removing regulatory hurdles to allow aircraft manufactured by Chinese state-owned plane maker Comac to operate in Vietnam. Hold up a moment or two. The story says removing regulatory hurdles. Now, this is at the risk of being sanctioned by the West. Now, the thing is, there is actually definitely an obvious reason for this, seeing this, I call it a seeming outrageous dare of the Western world. Remember, China has been banned from a whole lot of things, sanctions here and there, but here's a country saying they will remove all those regulatory framework or hindrances and allow that airline Comac to operate in Vietnam. And all of this is attributed to the drive to establish the Chinese state-owned plane maker Comac as an alternative to leading Western plane makers Airbus and Boeing. In other words, it's more like saying bye-bye to the Western influence and dominance in the Vietnamese aviation sector. Oh well, I would be surprised if sanctions aren't brought against the Vietnam government for this ballsy action on the West, right? The thing is, fingers are crossed. We'll see how this plays out eventually, wouldn't we? Because we hardly see some, well, we'll just see how it plays out, wouldn't we? Now, we're still watching, of course, the global business on the Afia Business Morning on Afia TV. Kindly join in the conversation, watching live, as it were, on our dedicated Afia Business YouTube channel. Kindly type in the search bar www.youtube.com/Afia Business. While you're there, do well to hit the like button. Remember, you should subscribe so you get notifications on all business-related content coming to you from Afia TV. Up next will be more business news stories from the automobile world and, of course, the rest of the world. Till this time out, stay tuned. You're welcome back to the Afia Business Morning on Afia TV. You are watching Global Business. Now to the rest of our stories. And moving on to business news stories from the automobile world, it's reported that U.S. officials have recently announced a $1.6 billion deal with Toyota subsidiary Hino Motors to settle charges on the amounts of emissions spewed by its diesel engines it deceived regulators about. According to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, Hino used altered emissions test data to get approval to import and sell more than 110,000 diesel engines to the U.S., where most of which were installed on heavy-duty trucks made by Hino. Meanwhile, a part of the deal, which includes a 5-year term of probation during which Hino will be barred from importing diesel engines, Hino will plead guilty also to engaging in a criminal conspiracy to mislead regulators and consumers, violating environmental protection laws and endangering public health. This is credited to U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland, who said this in a press release. However, Hino will also have to recall some trucks with engines violating emission standards and spend some $155 million to replace marine and locomotive engines through the U.S. to offset excess in air emissions. This is according to the EPA. Now, you know, certain things in the story are very interesting, and that's a part of the first paragraph actually jumps at me. The fact that Toyota is being fined a sum of $1.6 billion US. Now, forget the way this sounds, yeah? Yes, the story does sound like it's a deal. It's actually no deal, it's actually fine. A legit fine, if you may, where Toyota, through its subsidiary Hino Motors, had to settle, that's the point, settle charges on the amount of emissions spewed by their diesel engines that it actually deceived regulators about. That's the case in point, right? And the emphasis here is the fact that this is to settle charges. Underline that. That's the part I need you to understand. In as much as it made it sound like it's a deal, yes, to settle this charges on the amount of emissions that was, you know, emitted by its diesel engines, and it did go ahead. That's why the story says went ahead to say that they deceived regulators about how much of those emissions they are doing. You know, it's crazy, really, because now that means, what this means really is that Toyota, through its subsidiary Hino Motors, will be barred from importing diesel engines into the U.S. And also, they've been indicted, as a matter of fact, they've been told to plead guilty. Just so you know how it's crazy this is. They've been told to plead guilty in criminal conspiracy to mislead regulators and consumers, plus violating environmental protection laws and endangering public health. And frankly, this surely doesn't look good for Toyota and its subsidiary Hino Motors. I guess that's just the reason they took the fine, which has a lot of other clauses. Anyway, fingers crossed to see how that pans out eventually. And then moving away from that, let's go to Spain. And there's a crisis, if you may, as far as the real estate sector in Spain is concerned. Well, it's reported that Spain is actually planning to bring in strict legislation for property purchases as they prepare to implement a 100% tax on property purchases made by buyers outside of the EU. This is an attempt to better handle the country's mounting housing crisis by decreasing foreign purchases. Now, this is one of 12 measures that Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has recently introduced in an effort to try to improve the housing crisis, as Spain has been facing a lack of affordable properties to rent or buy following soaring property prices exacerbated by rising inflation and interest rates. Unfortunately, too, the situation, which has led to anger and discontent among residents, were made worse by the lack of the building of new homes, making housing demand to outstrip supply, thus pushing prices up further. Now, this is a legit story, right? The interesting part is, yes, I do agree to a large extent that there's a housing crisis in Spain. But imposing a 100% tax on property purchases made by outsiders, pretty much outside the EU, may be counterproductive, But then, our sources actually took our time to look at this story. The Guardian, Daily Guardian, actually came up with this story and tried to explain to us or share with us how Spain will be floating 100% tax for non-EU real estate buyers. Meanwhile, it's an infographic, so let's take a look. Oh, well, we'll follow up with the story as other stories as well as they unfold and keep you in the loop, just so you know how those stories pan out eventually. And just so you know, you can get to our dedicated Afia Business YouTube channel right now. Kindly type in the search bar www.youtube.com/Afia Business. While you're there, don't worry to hit the like button. Remember, you should subscribe so you get notifications on all business-related content coming to you from Afia TV. You're still watching the Afia Business Morning Live on Afia TV. Coming up next would be the Eastern Business. And we'll be looking at the week in retrospect and conversations that we had on the Afia Business Morning, and more specifically on the Eastern Business Report. Stay tuned. The Afia Business returns in a bit. My name is Ubong Kings. Stay tuned. Southeastern Business Report, we'll be looking at the week in retrospect. Of course, examining conversations from the Afia Business Morning. And then, of course, from issues around harnessing technology and digital entrepreneurship with emphasis on the gateway of global opportunities. And then, of course, we're going to look at the conversation we had about Governor Ba's executive order signing and the focus on the implication of that on business development in Enugu State. And of course, moving all the way to the business of real estate with emphasis on the future and prospects for Enugu real estate practitioners. All of this will basically form the basis of our session here this morning. My name is Ubong Kings. Welcome. Welcome back, and let's jump right into it. On Tuesday, I was delighted to play host to Kolibe Ilechukwu, who is a digital entrepreneur and a business leader, and we took out the time to look at harnessing technology and digital entrepreneurship with emphasis on the gateway of global opportunities. Let's see excerpts from that particular session real quick.
We have this Okonkwo and Sons Limited that never gets to the Sons, right? Why is it that Igbo businesses never transition into actually the Sons getting in, expanding this thing, or so on and so forth, right? Igbo businesses don't last. It ends, it starts and dies with the founder. I don't want to give some names, but we know banks that are folded and banks that were swallowed by other banks, right? A famous one that we know of, right? So you see that these banks that were swallowed by other banks, why did these things happen? Some of them, number one, they don't adopt digital processes, and some of them, we don't want to get into other parts where they don't train, you know, the right people to take over them, to succeed them. Right. But you see that if we can tell these people how it will benefit them. Like I said, humans, we're selfish by nature, right? If we can tell these Igbo traders, these petty traders, how we can benefit them and show them some sample sizes of people who have done these things in the past, it's going to be a big one. Because one thing about the internet is it's a global village. You can stay here, place an anything, anywhere in the world, and it can get to you in less than a week, right? So if we want to get the older demographic, we need to start to tell them that, see, these your traditional businesses can scale, and this is how. You start with little things like maybe social media marketing, Instagram, and the rest, showing them how they can get customers through these things, and it will take up from there. Technology came to make life easy, right? So when you say seamless, it's picking up your phone, taking pictures of your laptop and putting on Instagram. I know people in Lagos, right, who they sell all their goods on the internet. You know, the way here we have stores selling laptops, phones, these guys, they make a killing. I mean, millions, hundreds of millions selling gadgets. Because of course the youth population love gadgets. You see that it is really easy when we think about it. The only thing is we need just the right information. We need the right exposure. Because most people don't even know these things are possible. That's the main thing. Information, exposure. And I'm sure we'll take it up from there. The thing is, some Igbo people like us, they are not yet ready to accept it. But by the time they see the ease that technology brings in them doing business, everybody's in business to make profits, right? Yeah. By the time they see that, of course, I'm sure they will hop on it. It needs to start with simple initiatives, you know, from the government, from individuals. instead of only talking about formal education, traditional education, we need to start talking about learning digital skills. You know, if we can penetrate the market with digital skill analysis, if you can start to push this narrative and people start to learn them. I remember when computer lessons were the in thing, right?
Yeah, back in the day, yeah.
So things like that, if we start to push it, telling people that, see, they need to learn digital skills because we're in a digital world, and not just for learning's sake. You can make a lot of money from it because people, by humans' innate desires, and humans are selfish. We think about our self-interest, whether we like it or not, right? So in this case, you need to pander to that, which is, see, you can make money from this, you can become a global citizen from this. I know the opportunities I've gotten globally. Like I said, I've traveled to a few countries because of this. Because this is the only way you can sit where you are, press your phone, and connect with the whole world. The world is now a global village. I don't know why we are taking so long to adopt this. This has been happening for, say, 25 years, right? So I feel we should get into the program as soon as possible.
Oh well, that's what happened on Tuesday, and moving on Wednesday, I was delighted to play host to Izu Anyago, a lawyer and public affairs analyst, and we discussed Governor Mbah's executive order signing, and we focused on the implication, on business development in Enugu State. Let's see excerpts from that session.
Since it came on board, in the last 1 year, has continuously emphasized on urban renewal, urban development. And somehow the governor has been able to live up to his true word. And with this recent development of the government tinkering the capital territory regulation laws and designating some areas in Enugu State as urban areas, it goes to show that the governor is, he means business. Coming from that background, we look at the meaning of urbanization and the implication of this action. You know, a lot of people have defined, urban area, urbanization in different ways, but we have a standard definition here, which says that an urban area is a human settlement with a high population density,
right,
and an infrastructure of built environment. Like, in essence, an urban area is where you have a large number of people, settling, down to, live their daily activity. From this, when you look at it from this angle, you see that this definition tends to differ when it comes down to some developing countries. I think this is a good development because what it virtually means is that whatever budget is made for the urban areas it used to be, like the capital territory, which is the Enugu Central, such budget is going to also take into cognizance of the fact that we now have these other areas so extended as urban areas. Yes, some people may have argued that a city develops organically and an area develops organically and then becomes an urban area. Yes, that is very valid, very correct. But then the governor or the government of a state can, by its own very action, very deliberate action, make laws, direct policies that could make a place to develop into an urban area. Well, there's no development that does not come with cost, and I think one of the costs in this situation is that the government is going to also raise revenue from this area. For example, we have a lot of taxation going on in Enugu. we have the environmental tax, and people are also paying for, I think, for their shops. And then you have the ground rent and the tenement rent and all of that. And when you look at this situation and you want to, go in and you want to, go in that direction, you could almost come to that same conclusion that the government is intending to extend the dragnet. And if that is the case, without any meaningful intention to, bring development to this area, I think it's going to backfire, because you can't really reap from where you do not sow. So for me, we just need to give that benefit of that to the state government and see where this whole thing may. If it leads to getting more revenue from this area without commensurate development, then we can now be able to maybe criticize the government and say that it is not sincere in this activity.
Okay.
But for now, let us look at where this whole thing goes.
You're still watching, of course, Southeastern Business Report live from Enugu, Nigeria. And we just shared with you a few of the conversations, two of them actually, that we had in the course of the week and on the Eastern Business Report. You may want to see full episodes of those conversations on our dedicated Afia Business YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/Afia Business. While you're there, do want to hit the like button. Remember, you should subscribe so you get notifications on all business-related content coming to you from Afia TV. We'll take a break, and when we return, we'll look at all the conversations that we had on the Eastern Business Report right here on the Afia Business Morning. Stay tuned. Yeah, welcome back to this business report on the Afia Business Morning, live from Enugu State, Nigeria. And I am Ubong Kings. And before the break, I was sharing with you the conversations that I had in the course of the week. I highlighted that on Tuesday I did play host to Golibe Ilechukwu, who is a digital entrepreneur and business leader, and we looked at harnessing, as it were, technology and digital entrepreneurship with emphasis on the gateway of global opportunities. And then on Wednesday, I also did make mention of the fact that I hosted Izua Niago, who is a lawyer and public affairs analyst, and we talked about Governor Mbas executive order signing and focused on the implication of that would have on business development in Enugu State. And then moving on Thursday, I played host to Emmanuel Chime, a property and investment consultant, and we took out the time to look at the business of real estate with emphasis on the future and prospects for Enugu real estate practitioners. Let's see excerpts from that particular session real quick.
Now, it was more like a kind of business of roadside guys, guys who call mere housing agents, all right? But today you now see a lot of companies coming forward, a lot of guys, registering their own business companies and owning estates in different places. And meanwhile, owning estates helps to check irregular activities of land grabbers,
right?
All right? And so a lot of guys wants to go into, establishing their own estate companies and begin to acquire their own landed properties and begin to make sales as well. In that occasion, then you now discover that it's more easy, and a lot of guys have chosen to buy from companies than buying from individuals. That's exactly what I've been able to discover over the business and over the years I've been in the business. And we will now begin to see a lot of guys who are no longer talking about, I don't have any job. Instead, you now begin to align yourself or get yourself accredited with one real estate or the other. Okay, one real estate company or the other. Then you begin to accredit yourself with them and begin to make sales of their properties and make your genuine money from them. And so it begins to expand the area of, absorb a lot of guys from the labor market and create a lot of jobs. So we are seeing a lot of light in that particular industry. And mind you, real estate industry in Enugu have not been saturated. What happened is that, if you look at certain indices, according to Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, as of 2023, Nigeria projected to have had, or Nigeria reported to have had, housing deficit in the tune of 28 million units of houses. And mind you, we're not talking about homes, because there is a clear disparity between homes and houses or shelter. So we're only talking about shelter now, just to take people out of slums or to take people out of under the bridges where the people, will just go and lay their head, over the night or thereabout. But in this order now, you discover that we have over 28 million deficits, housing deficits, yeah. All right? And so you begin to see that this means that there is a great opportunity, business opportunities in this area. And federal government now rightly projected that for us to be able to, fit in and solve this problem, is going to take Nigeria over 21 trillion naira. But then, mind you, it's not going to be federal government that will provide the money. So it calls for private sector to play in. All right? I think the role of federal government and the state government, the local government now, including communities, is to make provision for these lands that could be acquired and to make provision for, genuine documents. Because most of the time what we are grappling with is the issue of you buy land today, tomorrow another person comes up, to authority and begin to drag, just like what you are seeing over there at Abuja, where Wike is, withdrawing lots of documents and, reallocating to whomsoever that best known to him. Okay, Obon, one thing is this, the NGs of Enugu, what the governor intended to do, to, integrate every document, automate all of them, that you can actually, making use of your internet compliant phone, can easily even access whatsoever from the system. Right? I believe that's exactly the intention of the governor, and which is very beautiful. But you know what, Obong, if they want to sabotage it, it will still come from the same system, from the same ministry that have actually established this particular system. So if we are going to have another issue over this particular NGs, it's going to be human factor. It's not going to be the machine. It's not going to be the internet. It's not going to be the domain, the site. I mean the website. It's going to be human made.
And there it is. And on that note, I dare say that this was the size of the package today on the Eastern Business Report. And just so you can follow us and see full episodes right here. Follow us and see full episodes of these conversations had already in the course of the week. Go to www.youtube.com/Afia Business. And while you're there, do want to hit the like button. Remember, you should subscribe so you get notifications on all business-related content coming to you from Afia TV. Up next is Only Afia. My name is Ubong Kings. Thank you for your time. Good morning.
What are your thoughts on the spate of sex for grades in Nigerian universities?
This very issue of owing salary should be criminalized.
How can they amplify their voices?
People don't have evidence.
You want to get to know about it? Have to stay tuned right here on Afia Morning Show to get the pulse and the feel of that.